The alarm clock hasn't buzzed yet, but I'm already awake. After 75, sleep becomes light like tracing fog on a window pane. I don't mind. Mornings are my favorite. The house is quiet, the world still hushed. I lie there for a moment, listening to the gentle creaks of the old house in Sandy Springs. It's aged with me. When Harold and I first moved in, the rooms felt too big. Now that I'm alone, it feels just right. Not too empty, not too crowded. Mine. With a slow breath and a soft grunt, I swing my legs out of bed. My feet slide into the fuzzy slippers Emma gave me last Christmas, my only gift from Doug's family that year. I wrap my robe around me and shuffle to the kitchen. The coffee maker, ever faithful, blinks green. I'd set it the night before, as always. While the smell of brewing coffee fills the room, I peer out the window at the sleepy street. My name is Zhang Tanner. I'm 78 years old. I spent most of my life working as an accountant at River Edge Construction. My Harold passed 15 years ago. A sudden heart attack. No warnings, no goodbyes. To this day, I still catch myself reaching for his favorite brand of coffee or expecting to hear his voice calling from the hallway. Take a sip of coffee and glance at the pile of bills on the kitchen table. The pension stretches, but just barely. We're nearly done paying off the house. Harold had insisted on a 30-year mortgage. I used to think he was being stubborn. Now I see it was wisdom. The phone buzzes. I don't need to look. It's Doug. He only texts for 2 reasons: kid duty or money. Mum, Thelma and I have an early meeting tomorrow. Can you pick the kids up from school and watch them until 8? No. Good morning. No. No, are you? Just another request. A demand, really. And never a thank you. Still, I reply, okay, I'll be there at 3:30. His reply, THX. This slow fading of connection didn't happen overnight. Doug used to be a sweet boy, bright-eyed and full of questions. Maybe I worked too much when he needed me most. Or maybe it changed after he met Thelma. Either way, now I'm more convenience than mother. An on-call babysitter. An invisible wallet. Doug works as an insurance adjuster. Thelma's a receptionist at a dental clinic. They do well. But somehow, they're always strapped for cash. The SUV, the home renovation, the private school for Emma and Josh. And every time something goes wrong, they turn to me. I finish my coffee and get ready. At 10, I'm meeting Barbara, my neighbor, and the only person I can have a real conversation with these days. She too is a widow. And she too knows the sting of children who call less and ask more. Barbara greets me at the gate, waving a grocery flyer like it's treasure. Zhang, look. 20% off frozen foods at Kroger. We laugh, then walk to the bus stop. I sold my car 2 years ago, after I nudged the neighbor's mailbox. My reflexes and eyesight aren't what they used to be. Public transit in Sandy Springs is sparse, but we're not in a hurry. How are the kids? Barbara asks as we sit on the bus. The usual. Babysitting tomorrow night. Any warning this time? If you count a 6 a.m. text. Barbara snorts. Sometimes. I think we were lucky our kids grew up before cell phones. At least they had to talk to us back then. She's not wrong. Communication is easier now, just not deeper. At the supermarket, we split up. My list is small. Tomatoes, cucumbers, chicken, breast, bread, milk, tea. Cooking for one doesn't inspire much creativity. Most nights, it's soup and a sandwich. Zhang. Barbara reappears, waving a glossy magazine. Best cruises for travelers over 65. She's beaming, like she's found buried treasure. I flip through the pages. Clear Korean waters, floating. Restaurants, sunsets on deck chairs. It feels distant, Unreal. Harold and I always dreamed of going on a cruise, I say. We said we'd go in our golden years, but then life happened. Well, why not go now? Barbara presses. You've got savings. You said you were saving for a rainy day. Yeah, but Zhang, the rainy day came. 15 years ago. How long are you going to keep waiting? We might not get a later. Barbara hands me the magazine again, firm but gentle. I slip it into my basket. That evening, after a quiet dinner, I pull out the magazine. I run my fingers over the pages, then reach for the old cookie tin where I keep my documents. My savings are still their pension. Insurance from Harold. Small bits I've tucked away over the years. Enough for the cruise. Enough for a new memory. The phone rings. This time, not a text, an actual call. Doug. Double quotes, "Hey, Mom. How are you?" That's new. Kind voice. Which means, he wants something. Josh's birthday is coming up. We're throwing a party, but Thelma's car needed repairs. It's a tough month. I wait. How much? I asked. A pause. He didn't expect me to get to the point. We were thinking $500. We want to hire a clown, get a space-themed cake, maybe a trampoline. I look at the cruise brochure, at Harold's name on the insurance papers, and something shifts. Or maybe something finally unshifts. I'm sorry, Doug. I don't have that kind of money, I say quietly. What? But you said you had savings. I do. And I'm going to use them on myself. I'm going on a cruise. Silence. A stunned breath. A cruise? You? Mom, you're 78. I smile to myself. Exactly. What cruise? That's exactly why I want to go now while I still can. I've been putting this dream off for too long. But that's crazy. Now Doug's not hiding his annoyance. You're going to spend a lot of money on what? A week at sea? What if you get sick? What if something happens to you? Who's going to look after you? Feshup's staff will look after me. I answer calmly. And the money is mimony, Doug. I've earned it over 40 years as an accountant, and I have the right to spend it as I see fit. But Josh, his birthday, you and Thelma can throw him a small but heartfelt party without my money. Invite his friends, bake a cake, come up with some contests. Kids need attention, not expensive entertainers. I can hear Doug sighing deeply. Okay, Mom, do whatever you want, but don't complain later if something goes wrong. He hangs up without saying goodbye. Typical of him. I put the phone away and look at the cruise magazine again. Talking to Doug has only strengthened my resolve. For 15 years, I've lived my life thinking first about the needs of my son and his family. It's time to start thinking about myself. The next day, I go to the travel agency at the mall. A sweet girl named Carol helps me choose the right cruise. 7 days in the Caribbean with stops in the Bahamas, Jamaica, and Mexico. A mid-deck balcony statita room, full board, and several excursions are included. Are you traveling alone, Mrs. Tanner? Carol asks, filling out the reservation. Yes, I answer. My first big trip in many years. It's going to be a memorable trip. She smiles. The cruise companions are very accommodating to older passengers. There will be special activities organized for you on board and the staff is always ready to help. I sign the documents and make a deposit. The cruise is scheduled for the end of May, 2 months from now. Plenty of time to get ready and maybe lose a little weight for a beach vacation. Walking out of the agency with a folder of documents in hand, I feel a strange excitement, almost euphoric. For the first time in many years, I have done something significant solely for myself. And this feeling is unusual but pleasant. I sit down on a bench in the mall to catch my breath and dial Barbara's number. Barb, I did it. I booked the cruise. Jang, she exclaims. I'm so happy for you. Where are you going? The Caribbean. 7 days in May. A cabin with a balcony. Can you imagine? Oh, it's going to be amazing. I'm so proud of you, my friend. Youds of this trip. We talk for a few more minutes, discussing the details of the trip and what I'll need to buy. Barbara suggests we go shopping together for a new swimsuit and summer clothes. I agree, although the thought of trying on swimsuits at my age is a little intimidating. In the evening, I sit in my living room looking through brochures about the cruise. My cat Oscar is nestled next to me, purring his evening song. It's already dark outside my window, and in the silence of the house, I can only hear the ticking of the clock and purring of the cat. Suddenly, a strange feeling comes over me, a mixture of joy and the slight sadness. It's a shame Harold can't share this journey with me. He would have enjoyed the cruise. He always loved the sea, although he rarely visited the coast due to his constant busyness at work. We planned so many things for retirement, but never had to make our dreams a reality. It's okay, darling, I whisper as if Harold might hear me. I'll go for both of us, and I'll look out to sea from the cabin balcony every morning, just like we dreamed. Oscar lifts his head and blinks as if he knows what I'm talking about. I stroke his soft fur and smile. There's a new adventure ahead, the first in years, and I'm ready for it despite all my fears and doubts. A week has passed since the day I booked the cruise at the travel agency. Every morning I woke up with a pleasant excitation in my chest. For the first time in years, I had a goal, something to look forward to. I even started watching my diet more closely and went out for a half-hour walk every day to get in shape for the trip. On Tuesday, when I returned from my walk, I found a letter from a travel agent. Upon opening the envelope, I read that I needed to create a personal account on the cruise company's website to confirm my reservations and select excursions. In order to save paper and care for the environment, all further operations were to be conducted via the internet. I had a computer, an old laptop given to me by Doug 3 years ago when he bought himself a new one. But I didn't know much about the internet. I used it mostly for reading the news, and occasionally for video calls with my grandchildren. On holidays, creating accounts, passwords, personal accounts. All this caused me a slight panic. After an hour of agony and 3 failed attempts, I still made it through. The personal account was created, and I was able to access my booking. The screen displayed the details of my cruise. Caribbean Dream. 7 nights departing May 23rd from Miami. Balcony stateroom on deck 8 number 812. I stared at the ship's schematic, trying to imagine walking the decks, dining in the restaurants, watching the sunsets from the balcony of my cabin. The thought that soon I would see the same turquoise waters and white beaches that I had only seen in photos so far filled me with a kind of childlike excitement. The system offered to make full payment now, to get a 5% discount. I hesitated. The amount was not small, but the discount was also significant. In the end, I decided to consult with Barbara and postpone the final decision until tomorrow. In the evening, I got a call from Thelma, which in itself was unusual. Usually, all communication was through Doug or through messages. Jung, hello. Her voice sounded unnaturally cheerful. How are you doing? I'm fine. Thank you, Thelma. I replied wearily. Did something happen? Oh no, nothing like that. I just wanted to see how you were doing. Doug said you were planning some kind of trip. Oh, that's it. They were more interested in my spending than my health or my well-being. Yes, I've booked a cruise to the Caribbean, I replied discreetly. A cruise? Thelma exclaimed with feigned admiration. How exciting. And when are you going? At the end of May for a week. And you're going alone? Aren't you afraid? There was a condescending tone in her voice that I knew so well. Thelma always spoke to me a little condescendingly, as if I were not her husband's mother, but a capricious child to be controlled. No, I'm not, I answered firmly. The ship will be full of staff and other passengers. It's a very safe vacation for the elderly. Of course it is, Thelma agreed hastily. It's just, Yaukno, Doug and I are a little worried. After all, you're not young anymore. What if something happens? I'm holding back my irritation. I'll be fine, Thelma, but thanks for your concern. How much does a cruise like this cost if it's no secret? She asked casually. Now we're getting to the bottom of the call. Quite expensive, I answered evasively. But I've been saving for a trip like this for a long time. I see. Thelma said, Well, I hope you have a good time. Emma misses you a lot, by the way. Why don't you come and visit us this weekend? This sudden change of subject was such an obvious manipulation that I could barely contain my laughter. If Emma really missed me, she could call herself. She'd had a phone since she was 10. Tell her I miss her too. I'm busy this weekend. That may be next week. After a few more minutes of awkward conversation, Thelma said goodbye. I put the phone away, feeling vaguely uneasy. This call was unusual. Thelma rarely showed interest in my life, and her sudden curiosity seemed suspicious. The next morning, I told Barbara about the call when we met in the park for our usual walk. They're up to something, Barbara said firmly, adjusting her hat. I'd pay for the cruise in full and print out all the paperwork as soon as possible if I were you. Just to be on the safe side. You think they're going to interfere with my trip? I wondered. It's my money, my reservation. Jang, honey, you're too trusting. Barbara shook her head. I've seen the way your Doug looks at your house every time Heckham's over. Like it's his future property. I'm sure he's already mentally managing your savings. Barbara's words hurt me, but deep down, I knew there was some truth to them. Doug had hinted several times in recent years that Ish should consider moving to a nursing home where professionals would take care of you, Mom. And each time after their conversations, he would casually ask who the house was in his name, and if I had a will. When I got home, I decided to take Barbara's advice and finalize the cruise payment. I turned on my computer, logged into my personal account on the cruise company's website, and was about to enter my credit card information when the phone rang. It was Doug. Mum. Hi. His voice sounded unusually cheerful. What are you doing? Just going to pay for the cruise. I answered honestly. Oh, that's great. Listen, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. Did you know that I have a friend, Pete, who works for a travel agency? No, I didn't know that, I answered cautiously. Yeah. We play golf sometimes. Anyway, I told him about your cruise, and he says he can get you a bigger discount than standard 5%, maybe as much as 15%. I frowned. Why the sudden concern? Thanks, Doug, but I've already arranged everything through the travel agency. Mom, you don't understand, he said, a familiar note of impatience in his voice. 15% is a serious savings. You can use that money to take additional excursions or upgrade your cabin to a mini-suite. Something about his insistence made me even more wary. I appreciate your concern, but I think you'll stick with what I've got. Fine. Suit yourself. His tone turned cooler. Just trying to help. After a brief pause, he asked casually, Have you registered on the cruise company's website yet? Created a personal account and everything? Yes, I figured it out yesterday, I replied, wondering how he knew such details. Great, again, that playfully cheerful tone. Listen, and let me help you with the choice of excursions. I know a little. About the Caribbean. I've been there on a business trip a couple times. I can tell you what's worth seeing. Thanks, but I haven't gotten to the tool selection yet. I have to pay the balance of the cruise first. Oh, I see. Well, when you're ready, let me know. Oh, by the way, you know how the internet can be a little slow, right? Maybe I should come over to your place and help you with all this. Computers are such a pain in the ass for your generation. Now, I'm finally convinced something's wrong. Doug never offered to help, much less with computers. He usually just sighed irritably when I asked him to explain how a program worked. You know, I can do this on my own, I said firmly. If there are any problems, I'll ask the travel agency for help. Whatever you say, his voice was cold again. I just wanted to help my own mother. After that conversation, I felt even more uncomfortable. Something was definitely wrong. Doug had never taken such an interest in my affairs unless he had something to gain from it. I decided to pay the balance of the cruise fee immediately. I entered my credit card information, confirmed the payment, and breathed a sigh of relief when a successful transaction message appeared on the screen. The cruise was now fully paid for, and no one could cancel the reservation. Just in case, I printed out the booking and payment confirmation and saved copies on a flash drive that I hid in the jewelry box, a place Doug would never look. 2 days after payment, I received an envelope in the mail with tickets, luggage tags, and a booklet about the ship. As I looked at their glossy pages with images of luxurious decks, pools, and restaurants, I could feel the excitement building. This is really happening. I'm really going on a cruise. That evening, as I was getting ready for bed, the doorbell rang. Doug was standing on the doorstep, which was unusual. He rarely dropped being announced, especially at this late hour. Ah. Doug. Is something wrong? It tensed involuntarily, expecting bad news. It's nothing, Mom. He smiled and squeezed past me into the hallway. I was just in the neighborhood. Thought I'd stop by. Thelma said, You got their cruise tickets? How did Thelma know about the tickets? I didn't tell her anything. Yeah, they came today, I answered cautiously. That's great. Can I see them? I'd always been curious about what cruise tickets look like. He hesitated. Something in his demeanor seemed unnatural, contrived. They're in the bedroom on the nightstand. Wait there. I'll get them. Come on, Mom, I'll get it. Doug was on his way to the stairs leading up to the second floor. I'm going to see how you live here. I haven't been upstairs in a while. Before I could object, he was on his way up the stairs. I followed him, feeling a growing uneasiness. In the bedroom, Doug immediately noticed that envelope with the cruise company logo on it. Here they are. He grabbed the envelope before I could say anything. Let's see. He pulled out the tickets and started studying them like it was the most interesting reading of his life. Wow, Deck 8. A cabin with a balcony. You didn't skimp, Mom. I've dreamed of this trip for a long time, I said, trying to hide my annoyance. And it's my money, Doug. Sure. He continued to study the papers. Oh, look. There's a spa treatment included and dinner at a special restaurant last night. It's awesome. I silently watched him going through the papers, looking at the brochures, reading the terms and conditions. Something in his behavior made me uneasy, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. You know, Mom, he said suddenly, not lifting his eyes from the papers. I've been thinking. You'd be lonely in the cabin alone, wouldn't you? And if you get sick, who's going to help you? There are medical personnel on the ship, I answered dryly. And I'm perfectly capable of calling for help if I need it. Yeah, but still. Doug finally looked up at me. Maybe you should take a companion with you like me. I almost laughed at the audacity of it. Doug, This cruise has been a dream of mine for years. I want to enjoy it alone without having to adjust to someone else's schedule or preferences. I understand. He nodded with feigned sympathy. But think about it. By the way, where's your passport? You'll need it for the cruise. It's in the safe. In my office, I answered, surprised at that change of subject. Good. Doug smiled a strange smile. Well, I'm glad you're all set for your trip. I think I'm going to go now that it's getting late. He put all the papers back into the envelope and handed it to me. I took the envelope, feeling inexplicably relieved that I had the tickets again. Thanks for stopping by, I said as I walked him to the door. You're welcome, Mum. Good night. When the door closed behind Doug, I leaned against the wall, trying to comprehend what had just happened. His sudden visit, his strange questions, his unusual interest in the details of my trip. It didn't fit into the usual pattern of our relationship. I went back to the bedroom and opened the envelope again to see if everything was in place. Going through the papers, I suddenly noticed that one of the tickets looked different than I remembered. Looking closer, I was horrified to find that the name on it was not Jang Tanner, but Douglas Tanner. With trembling hands, I checked the second ticket. It had the name Thelma Tanner on it. My heart raced. What's going on? How could this be possible? I rushed to my computer and struggled to turn it on with my naughty fingers. Going to the cruise company's website, I tried to log into my personal account, but the system gave me an error. Invalid password. I tried again, carefully entering each character. Again, the error. After several unsuccessful attempts, the system offered to restore the password. I agreed, and a link was sent to my email. Following it, I created a new password and was finally able to enter my personal cabinet. What I saw confirmed me worst fears. The booking information read, Passenger 1, Douglas Tanner. Passenger 2, Thelma Tanner. Change date, yesterday at 15:40. I stared at the screen in horror. My son had somehow changed the reservation information. But how? And then I remembered yesterday afternoon the computer had been on when I left for the store. I had forgotten to log out of my account on the cruise company's website. Doug must have gotten in while I was gone. He always had a spare key just in case and made changes to the reservation. With trembling hands, I dialed my son's number. Doug, what did you do? I asked as soon as he answered. Why are your and Thelma's names on my reservation now? A brief pause and then laughter. Not embarrassed, not guilty, smug. Ah, you've already noticed. Faster than I expected. Doug, this is my cruise. I paid for it. I planned it. Yeah, you paid for it. He agreed nonchalantly. But you have to admit there's nothing for you to do. At your age, traveling like that is a risk. And Thelma and I have long dreamed of a good vacation. I want to have everything back the way it was. I felt my voice shaking with anger. I'm afraid that's not possible, Mom, he said, his voice now clearly mocking. No changes in the names of passengers are allowed after they've paid in full. That's the rule. But don't worry. We'll bring you back a souvenir. Doug, how could you? My voice shook with resentment and rage. I'm your mother. Thanks, but I'm going without you. He laughed. Okay, Mom. Don't take it personally. You really should stay home. You get tired quickly. You can't stand the heat. What kind of cruise would you want? I heard him put his hand over the receiver and shout. Ma, guess what? We're going on a cruise to the Caribbean. Can you believe it? 7 days on a huge liner and it's all free. The last phrase was said with a special pleasure and I realized. They'd said it on purpose so that I could hear it. I couldn't find words for my outrage. Look, Mom, I got to go. Thelma wants to talk about what to bring. Thanks for the gift. You read best. And he hung up, leaving me in a daze of shock and anger. I didn't cry. Strangely enough, I haven't shed a tear since talking to Doug. Instead of the usual bitterness and resentment, a cold, throbbing rage filled me. I sat in my chair, clutching the phone so tightly that my knuckles turned white and stared at one point. Images of the past flashed before me. All the times Doug had taken advantage of my kindness and generosity. All the times he'd manipulated me, making me feel guilty for not being a good enough mother. I spent the entire evening in a daze. Didn't turn on the TV. Didn't read a book. Didn't even eat dinner. I just sat and thought about my life, about my son, about how we had come to this state of affairs. Oscar, seeing my condition, jumped on my lap and purred softly as if trying to comfort me. The next morning, I called the cruise company. I explained the situation in a voice trembling with excitement. My son had changed the passenger data without my knowledge, and I wanted everything back the way it was. The young man on the line was polite, but adamant. I'm sorry, Mrs. Tanner, but company policy does not allow changing passenger names after the reservation has been paid in full without a substantial penalty. In fact, it would consider cancelling the current reservation and creating a new one, which means losing all the discounts and promotions you received on the original reservation. But it was my son who changed SophiaTales without my permission. I could feel the wave of anger rising inside again. This is fraud. I understand your frustration, he continued patiently. But the changes were made through your account. Technically speaking, the system has recorded that you did it. If you believe fraud has occurred, you should contact the police. Police reporting against my own son. Even in my current state, I couldn't do that. It would mean a complete breakdown of their relationship. A scandal that would probably affect the grandchildren. No, there had to be another way. What if I could prove that the payment was made on my credit card? I asked hopefully. That doesn't change the situation, Mrs. Tanner. The cruise contract is with the person named on the reservation, regardless of who made the payment. Many people pay for cruises for their family or friends. I thanked him and hung up, feeling even more defeated. Had Doug really won? Should I just accept that he had stolen my dream? I spent the rest of the day in a state of numbness. Didn't answer the phone, not even when Barbara called. Just sat in my chair, staring out the window at the neighbor's maple tree, its young leaves fluttering in the spring breeze. Finally, toward evening, I forced myself to eat. Just peanut butter toast and tea. But it was better than nothing. And then, just as I was about to put the dishes away, it hit me. I could still log into the reservation system. Doug had changed the passenger names, but not the account password. I still have access to manage my trip details. With sudden leer of energy, I rushed to the computer. My hand shook a little as I entered my login and recovered password. But the system let me in without a problem. There it was, my reservation, now with Doug and Thelma's names instead of mine. I started researching what else could be changed on the reservation other than passenger names. And with each new tab I opened, my mood improved. Oh, the possibilities were numerous. The first thing I did was check to see which stateroom Doug had chosen. Of course, he hadn't kept my original one, a modest balcony stateroom on deck 8. Instead, he upgraded it to a mini suite on deck 10 with an extended balcony and access to the Tranquility Zone, a special adults-only part of the ship with a private pool and lounge chairs. The extra charge for this, of course, went on my credit card. Well, I thought, let's see how you like of other cabin. The system allowed you to change cabin category without changing the cost if it was a downgrade. I opened the ship's schematic and started looking for the most unfortunate arrangement. After a few minutes of searching, I found the perfect one. A stateroom on the third deck, directly above the engine room and next to the elevator shaft. Based on the reviews I found on a cruise forum, this was one of the noisiest places on the ship. I made the change and received a confirmation. Your stateroom has been successfully changed to room $312 on deck 3. The difference in cost of $480 will be refunded to your credit card within 7 to 10 business days. Not a bad start. Not only had I ruined their comfort, but I had also gotten some of my money back. Encouraged by this success, I continued to research what else I could change. The next item on my list was excursions. Doug added several expensive excursions to the reservation. Snorkeling in the Bahamas, a trip to waterfalls in Jamaica, a tour of Mayan ruins in Mexico. The total cost of all these activities was almost $700. One by one, I cancelled all these tours. Cancellation of the tours has been confirmed. Funds will be refunded to your credit card. Now that Doug and Thelma won't have any pre-booked excursions, they'll have to choose from what's left available when they get to the ship. And by then, the most popular options will be sold out. Next, I noticed the packages that Doug had added to the reservations. A premium beverage package that allows you to order unlimited alcoholic beverages, cocktails, and premium non-alcoholic beverages. A high-speed internet pack. A specialty dining package giving access to paid restaurants on board. All of this, of course, was paid for with my card. I cancelled everything, every package, every extra service. The system confirmed each time that the funds would be refunded to me. Now, let's get to the nutritional details. Under the Food Preferences tab, there was a standard menu with no restrictions. I changed it to a strict low-salt vegetarian diet for both passengers. Doug loves steaks and seafood, and Thelma can't imagine life without fried chicken. Let's see how they like a week on veggies and tofu. The next item is dinner time. Cruise companies usually offer several dinner shifts in the main restaurant. Doug chose the late shift, 8:30 in the evening. I knew he and Thelma liked late dinners, especially on vacation when they could relax and not be rushed. It changed the time to the earliest shift, 6 o'clock in the evening. Now they would have to cut short their afternoon vacation or return early from shore excursions to make it in time for dinner. Then I turned my attention to the Special Request tab. Here, passengers could specify any special wishes or needs, from extra pillows to organizing holidays on board. And then a brilliant idea struck me. I wrote, passengers Douglas and Thelma Tanner are celebrating 25 years together silver wedding anniversary on this cruise. Please arrange a special surprise for them during the captain's formal dinner. Douglas is very shy but will be touched by the public congratulations. I knew that cruise companies like to celebrate passenger special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, honeymoons. It usually involves a public congratulations from the captain or cruise director, a special cake, and a song sung by the waitstaff. Dogated being the center of attention, especially in unfamiliar surroundings. And Thelma would probably wonder why Hesed they'd been married 25 years, when in fact their marriage had only lasted 8. I was pleased to send the request and received an automated response. Your request has been accepted. Our customer service team will contact you with more details. Well, have them contact me. I'll be happy to clarify the details of this celebration. After that, I poked around the system some more, trying to find additional ways to screw up their trip. Alas, there was nothing else of substance that could be changed. But I had already done enough. To summarize, I mentally listed all my improvements to their cruise. Noisy lower deck cabin instead of a suite. No pre-UCAD excursions. No drink packages, internet or specialty restaurants. Strict vegetarian diet. Early dinner instead of late dinner. public silver wedding celebration during the formal dinner, plus a refund of almost $1,200 to my credit on my credit card. Not bad, for a start, but I wanted more. I wanted Doug and Thelma to remember this cruise forever. Like, I would remember their betrayal. Just ruining part of the experience for them didn't seem enough. I needed something else. Something that would touch them more deeply. The next day, I called Barbara and told her everything that had happened. She was outraged to the core. "How insolent," she exclaimed. "Jean, you should sue him. It's pure theft." "I know. But, he's my son, Barb. Anyway, I don't want to take legal action against my own child." "Then what are you going to do?" I told her about my manipulation of the reservation. Barbara laughed. "Jean Tanner, I never realized you had such a conniving nature lurking inside you. Proud of you, my friend." "Thank you, but I don't think it's enough. I want them to remember this cruise for the rest of their lives." Barbara thought for a moment. "You know, my daughter Melissa has a friend who works for a cruise company. Not the same one as your cruise, but maybe she can offer some advice." "That would be wonderful." I felt a surge of hope. "I'll call her today. We'll see what she has to say." That evening, Barbara called back. "Jean, I talked to Lucy, Melissa's friend. She's been working in customer service at the cruise company for 5 years, and she has some ideas." I braced myself to listen, feeling a spark of anticipation ignite inside me. First, Barbara began. "You could send an email to the cruise company on Doug's behalf, telling them that he's allergic to sunscreen and needs special lotions. They'll make a note in the system, and the staff will have to ask him every day if his sensitive skin is okay." I smiled. Doug had always been obsessed with his imagined constant reminders of his problem skin would get on his nerves. She also suggested booking special lectures or workshops on board for them. For example, a class on dancing for older couples, or how to deal with intimacy problems after 50. But Doug Isonly 42 and Thelma is 39. I pointed out they're clearly not the target audience for such events. That's just it. Imagine their faces when they show up at registration and they're told, "Oh, Mr. Dot and Mrs. Tanner, we've reserved seats for you at the Sexuality in the Golden Age seminar this afternoon at 2 o'clock. Couldn't help but laugh. That would be really humiliating for them. And Thelma's idea from Lucy is the most insidious," Barbara continued. "You could leave a comment in the system that Doug and Thelma are very interested in buying a timeshare or shares in the cruise company. Then they might be invited to a presentation to potential investors, which Lucy said could last for hours and could be extra impressive." All of these ideas sounded tempting, but required action beyond what I could do through the standard booking interface. I needed to contact the cruise company directly. "Barbara, could your Lucy advise me on the best way to send such requests so they don't look suspicious?" She said the best way is to write to the official customer service email and preferably use the same email listed on the reservation. "You have access to Doug's email, right?" No, unfortunately, but my email is in the reservation. Doug apparently didn't feel the need to change it. "Then use it. Just come up with a plausible explanation as to why you, a woman, are writing on Doug's behalf." I thought about it for a moment. I could say that I'm his assistant, and I'm helping with the travel arrangements. That's a great idea. After talking to Barbara, I sat down at my computer and opened my email. I created a new email address to the cruise company's customer service department. "Good afternoon. My name is Joan Perkins, and I am Mr. Douglas Danner's personal assistant. Reservation number XT56749. Mr. Tanner has asked me to contact you with several questions regarding his upcoming cruise. First, Mr. Tanner and his wife are extremely interested in investment opportunities with your company. Mr. Tanner has requested Talk know if there are presentations on board for potential investors, and if so, to enroll them in all available sessions. Second, Mr. Tanner suffers from a rare form of photoamatitis, allergy to sunscreen. He requires special lotions, which he will bring with him. He requested that staff be notified so that he can be reminded regularly to update his protection, especially while on the outdoor decks. Third, Mr. and Mrs. Tanner would like to attend all available educational seminars on board, especially related to staying healthy and active in older age. Mr. Tanner is particularly interested in topics related to maintaining intimate relationships after 50. I would be grateful to acknowledge receipt of this information and mark their reservations accordingly. Sincerely, Joan Perkins, assistant to MRD Tanner. I reread the letter several times, made minor edits, and finally hit send. My heart was pounding like I was doing something extremely risky, but at the same time, I felt a strange satisfaction. For the first time in years, I was fighting back, not just accepting whatever life threw at me. 2 hours later, I received a reply. Dear Miss Perkins, thank you for your application. We have made all the requested notations on Mr. and Mrs. Tanner's reservation. Regarding their interest in investing, there are indeed information sessions on board for potential investors. We have made reservations for them for 3 presentations on different days of their cruise. Regarding Mr. Tanner's photoamatitis, this information has been relayed to the ship's medical staff. A note has also been made to deck staff to remind Mr. Tanner to protect himself on a regular basis. Regarding educational seminars, we have signed up Mr. and Mrs. Tanner for the following sessions. Joint Health After 60. Day 2, 10 a.m. Sexuality in the Golden Age. Day 4, 2 p.m. How Tovoid falls on board for older passengers. Day 5, 11 a.m. If you have any further questions, feel free to get in touch. Sincerely, Maria Rodriguez, Customer Service. I leaned back in my chair, feeling satisfied and slightly anxious at the same time. What had I done? This revenge was petty, unworthy of an adult. But then I remembered Doug's words. Thanks, but I'm going. Without you. And his laughter as he bragged to Thelma about the free cruise. No. He deserved it all. They both deserved it. The next day, an email arrived from the cruise company regarding my request for Doug and Thelma's silver wedding celebration. They asked for the exact anniversary date so they could prepare an appropriate certificate and then asked if we would like a special cake or other extras. I replied that the anniversary was on the 4th day of the cruise, Andes. We would like to order cake and champagne for the entire table. I chose the most expensive cake option and the most expensive champagne offered. After all, since Doug likes to use my money so much, let him enjoy it to the fullest. A few days later, I received a notice that my credit card had been charged for the cake and champagne. But this expense didn't upset me. I saw it as an investment in my sanity. Every day it checked my reservation, fearing that Doug would discover my changes and try to refund everything. But it seemed he was too busy preparing for his cruise to look into the details of the reservation. Or maybe he just didn't expect me to be so sneaky. After all, in all these years I'd never once fought back. A week before the cruise departed, I received another email from the cruise company. They informed me that due to maintenance work on the ship, the cabin category I had chosen for Doug and Thelma was unavailable. As compensation, they offered a free upgrade to a cabin on Deck 5, also near the elevators, but no longer above the engine room. It blurred the effect of my revenge a bit, but I decided that Deck 5 near the elevators wasn't the quietest place on the ship either. Besides, all my other improvements were still in effect. Finally, the day of sailing arrived. I knew Doug and Thelma were scheduled to leave for Miami early in the morning. They had left the grandchildren with Thelma's parents, apparently deciding that the maternal grandmother was more reliable than me. All day I was in a strange state of anxious anticipation. I tried to do the usual things. Went to the store, watered the flowers, watched my favorite show on TV, but my thoughts kept returning to Doug and Thelma. I wondered if they were already on board. Had they already discovered that their cabin was not at all what they had hoped for? How did they react to the vegetarian menu and lack of pre-booked excursions? In the evening, I couldn't take it any more and sent Doug a text. Hope you made it to the ship safely. Enjoy your vacation. The reply came an hour later. Yes, we are on board. The cabin is not quite what we expected, but we have been offered compensation in the form of free drinks for tonight. Thank you for your concern. His tone was dry, but without much hostility. Apparently he hadn't yet discovered all the surprises I had prepared for them. Or perhaps he didn't want to give me the satisfaction of showing his frustration. I smiled and disconnected the phone. Let him enjoy their perfect vacation. The first day was just the beginning. There will be many more exciting things ahead of them. The morning after the ship left was surprisingly calm. I woke up as usual around 6, drank coffee on the veranda, and even had time to read a fresh newspaper brought by the delivery man. No calls or messages from Doug. Apparently, the first evening on the cruise had passed without much incident, or my son had decided not to share his experiences with me. Around 10 o'clock, I headed to the local Home Depot hardware store. For several years now, I had been putting off renovating the upstairs bathroom. The tile there was cracked and the faucet in the sink was starting to leak. Harold always said he'd take care of it next weekend, but he never got around to it. After he died, I just closed off that bathroom and only used the one on the first floor. But now that my cruise plans were ruined, I had some free time and importantly some extra money. The very same money that came back on my credit card after my manipulation of Doug's reservation at the store. I was a little confused as I looked at the endless rows of tile, faucets, tubs, and other accessories. For all the years of our marriage, Harold had done the home renovations and I had only picked out colors and materials. Now I had to do it all myself. Can I help you with something? I heard a voice behind me and turned around. In front of me stood a man about my age wearing a blue shirt with Vestal's logo. His grey hair was neatly cut, and his brown eyes were friendly. Yeah, I guess so, I answered with relief. I need to renovate the bathroom, but I have no idea where to start. My name is Frank. He held out his hand. I work here as a bathroom and kitchen remodeling consultant. If you'll allow me to ask you a few questions and we'll make a plan of action together. We spent the next hour discussing the condition of my bathroom, my budget, and my design wishes. Frank proved to be a patient and knowledgeable conversationalist. He explained everything in simple terms, not trying to impress me with technical terms, as men often do when talking to older women. You know, Mrs. Panner, Hesed, as we picked out the tiles and plumbing fixtures. You can hire professionals from our store to install it all, but that would cost you about 3 times the cost of the materials. Is there an alternative? I asked, figuring out my budget. Well, you could hire an independent contractor. They usually charge less, he mumbled. Actually, I do a little remodeling myself in my spare time. If you'd like, I can take a look at your bathroom and give you an estimate. In any other situation, I'd probably say no. Inviting a strange man into my house when I live alone. It went against every safety rule I'd instilled in myself over the years. But there was something about Frank's open gaze that inspired confidence. Besides, he worked at a big store, so he must have passed at least a minimal background check. Okay, I decided. What time could you come by? I get off at 5 today. I could drop by around 6 o'clock if that's okay. We exchanged phone numbers and addresses. Frank promised to come by tonight, And in the meantime, he arranged for me to deliver the materials I'd chosen the next day. Back home, I felt a strange excitement. When was the last time I had invited a non-family man into my home? Not counting plumbers, electricians, and other labourers called in as needed. Never. Harold and I have been pretty insular, and since his death I'd minimised social contact. I spent an hour tidying the house, though it was clean enough as it was. Then it changed into a more decent dress instead of the homemade pants and t-shirt I usually wore around the house. It's just a business meeting, I told myself. No need to be nervous. Around 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the first text from Doug came in. I was just dusting off the bookshelves when my phone beeped, alerting me to a new text. Mum, what the hell is going on with our reservation? They gave us a vegetarian menu, not vegetarian. You know how much I hate that grass. What's going on? I felt my lips involuntarily stretch into a smile. So, the first surprise had already been discovered. I decided not to answer right away. Let him suffer. 15 minutes later, another message came. And why did they sign us up for some stupid seminar? Joint Health After 60. We were told it was you who requested these activities for us. What kind of nonsense is that? I was laughing outright now. I imagined Doug's face when he was informed of this exciting activity. He must have been furious. I still didn't answer, and soon the phone rang. Doug. I took a deep breath and answered. Hey, son. How are you resting? Mum, what's going on? His voice sounded tense. This isn't the way it's supposed to be. Lower deck cabin, noisy as hell. No drink. Packages or internet. No booked excursions. And that damn vegetarian menu. Did you do something about the reservations? I paused, savouring the moment. Oh, Doug, I'm so sorry, I finally said with fake sympathy. There must have been some kind of error in rebooking the reservation. You know, computers are so unreliable in the hands of people of my generation. Silence on the other end of the wire. Then you did that on purpose, didn't you? His voice oozed venom. You're rejecting back at us. Why would I want revenge on you, dear? I tried to keep my voice innocent. For stealing my dream. For taking the tickets. I paid for with my own money. For bragging to your wife about a free cruise at my expense. No. Come on. Why would I want revenge? You. He clearly couldn't find the words. That's low, Mom. Even for you. Low? Now I couldn't hide my anger. It's low to steal a dream from your own mother. It's low to take advantage of her kindness and generosity for years and then repay her. Like this. You wanted my cruise. Well, you can have it with all my improvements. I demand that you make it right now. Doug was almost shouting. I'm afraid that's not possible, son. As their cruise company has probably explained to you by now, changes to a reservation once the cruise has started are no-to-load. Those are the rules. There was a long pause. I could almost hear Dog trying to control his rage. You're going to regret this, he finally hissed. When we get back, we'll have a serious conversation. I look forward to it, I replied and hung up. I expected to feel guilty, or at least slightly regretful after this conversation. But instead, I felt a strange sense of relief, almost euphoria. For the first time in years, I had fought back, stood up for myself, and the feeling was intoxicating. The rest of the day passed in pleasant excitement. I even made Asmal dinner just in case Frank got hungry while I was checking out the bathroom. At 6 sharp, the doorbell rang. Frank stood on the doorstep holding a small suitcase of tools. Good evening, Mrs. Tanner. He smiled. I hope I'm not late. No, you're right on time. I stepped back, letting him into the house. And please call me Zhang. Only if you call me Frank. He took off his cap, exposing his greying head. I led him upstairs to the bathroom, which was in need of renovation. Frank inspected their room with professional attention, checking the condition of the pipes, tapping the walls, measuring the dimensions. "Well, it's not as much work as it could be," he said finally. "The tiles are cracked, but the base of the walls is in good condition. The plumbing is old, but the pipes don't need replacing. I think I can do it all in about a week, working evenings and maybe weekends." "How much will it cost?" I asked, preparing myself for a large sum. Frank quoted a figure that was much lower than I expected.